Good evening, friends. Welcome to this new live session, Exports Nation Daily Live on VG Exports Mastery. Let us wait for a few minutes for more people to join. Pradeep good evening. Welcome to the session. Let's wait for a few minutes so that more people can join. So, friends, on this channel, we are having live classes uh, every now and then. Uh, So the topics we take up certain topics of great interest to the exporters, and whether they are established exporters or new exporters, the topics are of the type that they help them in better understanding the international business environment and be capable of doing exports smoothly and in a smart manner. That is the idea. That is the objective of these topics which we take up. So, in line with the earlier topics which we had taken on this channel, live channel, today we have planned to take up a different topic. I will explain to you that why it is important for the exporters. The topic is about the geopolitical environment for business. So, how do you understand the geopolitical environment in the world today and how does it impact business? So, that is the objective of today's session. So, I'll be taking up a presentation to explain the understanding and the meaning of geopolitics. What is geopolitics? And how to interpret the international events that are happening and their impact on business. So that will be the objective of this session. I will try to include the concepts in this session that will be able to give you a fairly good idea of what is geopolitics and how it impacts business. If we are able to take up this topic completely today, that is all right. Otherwise, we will take up the second part also of this topic in the next session also. So let me share with you the presentation that will help you to understand the concept better. So I hope you can see the presentation. Let me explain to you the topic. The topic is geopolitical environment for business, and in this session, we'll be explaining what is geopolitics and to understand the changing environment of geopolitics in the world and how it impacts business. That is the objective. So let us first start with the discussion on what is geopolitics. So, friends, geopolitics classical definition is the analysis of the geographic influences on the power relationships in international relations. So, in today's world, we are talking of the place of the country. Like when we say A country is located at a particular point on this planet, and that position where it is located plays an important role in the influences it has on the power relationship. I'll give you one example. So let us take the example of Canada and Mexico. Now, USA is the superpower and the leading engine of growth, economic growth of the world. And the location of Canada and Mexico as next door to US has played very important power relationship of Canada and Mexico as far as the business is concerned, the business landscape of this world is concerned. So, definitely, geography has a major influence on the position of a country, economic as well as political condition of a particular country. Now, what Canada could do, probably Mexico could not do for different reasons. So Mexico has not only the border relationship with USA, but many other countries. So it has some advantages and it has some disadvantages also, which may be geographic in nature. But in present time, the other factors also play very, very important role. So I will discuss that thing later in today's session. So, friends, the concept of geopolitics, the idea of geopolitics was first coined by Rudolf Jelen at the very start of the 19th century. So that was the time when this idea was coined. So by that time, nobody had talked about the geopolitics or the influence of geography on the power situation of a particular country. Then, friends, after Rudolf Jelen, many social and political thinkers associated geographic factors that influence the domination of power of the nations in line with the new advancements of their times. And what were those new advancements? Like the sea transportation. So, if we talk of the Middle Ages era, when European sea power played an important role in benefiting from the international trade and the dominance of the world. So, if we take the example of British Empire, for example, that was largely supported by the sea power, high seas, high seas routes which were explored by the British explorers. So we know of the East India Company that took root in India, in Kolkata through sea, and they ruled over India and many other countries. So British power is a very, very good example. Very large British Empire it was, and they really dominated the world by that time, and it was largely supported and escalated by their sea power. Then later on, when railroad developments came into effect, so that time the idea of the heartland was coined by Mackinder. So Mackinder's heartland theory became quite uh, popular by that time. And as per this heartland theory, the countries like Russia and many other countries in that heartland, they became important according to the railroad development, because development meant that those countries, they were protected from the sea attacks because they were in the hinterland, so-called heartland of Mackinder. So, because of the railroad development within the heartland, they had good means of transportation. So, because of this, Mackinder thought that the dominance of the world will be the result of any country that will be able to control the heartland. And probably that is the reason the formation, the Soviet Union was created with that kind of thinking, that the superpower status which Russia realized that by having the Soviet Union, the dominance on the heartland. So that theory was very very old actually. It was the early 20th century actually, Mackinder's heartland theory. And later on, when we talk of World War One and World War Two, especially World War Two, the air transport, the countries with air power were coined to be the dominating power. So Germany thought that they can actually dominate the world based on their air transportation power. So these were the the earlier classical ideas that I wanted to share with you in this geopolitical thought. So, but in recent times, friends, what has happened? If we talk of the real meaning of geopolitics, if we talk, so enhanced military capability and modern weapons actually reduce the importance of many other factors that we discussed, especially the geographic factors. So I will give some examples also on this. So what is happening in recent times? The new meaning of geopolitics is emerging, and that is related with the military capabilities of the countries. So what is happening is that the superpower status can be attained by any country that have that have been able to deploy the latest military capabilities. That has become very very important, although it is debatable. So we'll talk about it a little bit more on this. So these new factors became part of the new meaning of the geopolitics and its theories. So when we say geopolitics, which contains the word geo, that is geography, so it is no more geography. So when we say geopolitics, we are talking of the geographic factor to certain extent, but the enhanced factor of the military capabilities. So that has become very important. So that has to be understood. So from the business point of view, one can understand this world. The military capabilities of different countries can play a very important role, but again, there is a debate on this. So I'll just discuss about that. So if we, friends, if we take some examples on this, so if we take the recent example of the Russian Ukraine war. So, friends, what has happened? What is the general debate and understanding of the political thinkers that the whole war was a has been a mistake by Russia with a classical understanding of the geopolitics from the geographic point of view, because they thought that Ukraine is geographic part of the erstwhile Soviet Union, and Russia thought that by having a dominance on Ukraine can probably help it. But that's a very very old school thought actually. So that the debate is that the error made by Kremlin about this war is misguided actually. So the result is the failure in the war in spite of the possession of nuclear weapons. So in spite of the fact that Russia is in possession of nuclear weapons, and it can mean a lot in today's world also. So if we talk of the geopolitical situation today, the possession of nuclear weapons would mean that there is a possibility of the negotiations with the world with respect to the invasion, with respect to the occupation. But that is actually also not happening. So this is the reason why we say that nuclear capabilities or the military capabilities, how much influence they have, but to what extent they are influencing the present geopolitics. So that has to be debated. Now, the same mistake may be made by China, because China is heading towards that mistake over Taiwan, because again, the old school thought of geopolitics that the geography plays very important role is being again miscalculated by China about Taiwan. So China had been having a very good position in the world in recent times, which at present is being questioned internationally because of the changed rhetoric by China. So again, China is miscalculating about the geopolitical power by having the geographical influence and saying that Taiwan can be invaded by China. So again, China may be making the same mistake what was made by Russia. So what is happening is that China would have done better without really becoming so serious about Taiwan and having a very positive situation in the world today. So the same thing could have been done by Russia also, because Russia was able also having a very good position in the world today, accepted by the world in spite of the annexation of Crimea. So people had the world has forgotten about it, and Russia was able to sell its gas and uh, oil resources and earn a lot of money actually. It was doing very well. Similarly, China is already doing very well. Again, by making the same mistake because of the misunderstanding about the meaning of geopolitics by these two regions. So, if you take the example of Singapore, for example, Singapore geographically is a very small country. I mean, it's like a city state, but geographical advantage it has because of its location on the sea highways. Now, because of this location on the sea highways, Singapore is very much integral part of the international trade, and it is trying to leverage its position, that position only, without really focusing on the geographical influence. So, in spite of being a small country, it has a very good position. If you compare with even Russia or you compare with China, the per capita income of Singapore is much higher than these two countries. Uh, quite a big, almost 40,000 US dollar per person they are earning, which is far above China or Russia. So if you look at Singapore, in spite of the geographical disadvantages, it is able to influence the world. So geopolitical understanding of Singapore is much better than these two countries. So the business people has to understand it is in the same way. So if we talk of the changing geopolitical scenario on business at present, what is the situation? So some of the major recent geopolitical events have had a major impact on the world business, and no country has been spared of these impacts. And these major impacts, you friends already know, are the COVID-19, uh, that we all know that it totally changed the geopolitical scenario, actually. In fact, very, uh, uh, very, very strong impact we have seen of COVID-19. And later to COVID-19, Russia Ukraine war has played very important changes in the world geopolitics of today, and especially the business, international trade. A lot of changes can be seen. Companies are re-strategizing their global operations because of Russia Ukraine war. And just few days back, Amazon has fired almost 10,000 employees. Twitter also is in very shaky position because of these changes which are happening. So, large companies are finding it difficult to sustain many of the impacts of these geopolitical changes. And the third event, that is the China's changed stance on business. So, what is happening is that Under the new leadership in China, the world is seeing a different side of China actually. So for many many decades, China was being taken as a serious contender for business. So earlier, their main objective seemed to be a business position in the world. But today, world is seeing the political side of China, which is becoming more and more important. So again, it's a miscalculation by China, and it's a major event that has been seen in just last few years. Those changes have been seen. And fourth, very important, the political instability in US. So although US is trying to remain on the right side and with a lot of stability, but instability is very much visible in US. So friends, what is happening is that uh, these these factors, these recent events, I'm just giving you an idea that the present geopolitical situation should be seen in the context of these events. Now, COVID 19, for example, uh, the world has seen it, the world has learned to live with it, COVID 19. Now, Russia Ukraine war, what situation it will, what shape it will take in coming weeks or months, what is going to happen, that has to be seen. But one thing which is visible is that the miscalculation of the country is that having the nuclear weapons would mean that they can actually dominate the neighbors uh, without nuclear weapons. That is proving to be wrong perception, because it is not easy for any country to bargain on the nuclear capability. So there comes the question of the conventional military capability. So that are becoming very very important. So conventional military capabilities are again becoming very very important, because nuclear war, nuclear weapons actually cannot be negotiated. So the nuclear weapons can only be treated as a protective environment for the country, not to bargain. Bargaining is not possible. So this is the present situation. What happens in the future is very difficult to predict, but this is a situation. So the lessons from the Russian-Ukraine war are very very clear, that nuclear weapons cannot be used as a bargaining power. So that is not possible. So the result of that is, the meaning of that is, when we say the influencing factor of the geopolitical scenario today, the conventional military capabilities definitely is a factor, but nuclear capability still does not have the influence or the dominating power or the power relationship in the international relations and business. Nuclear capabilities cannot be used as a factor. So this is what I was trying to say when I started this session. And as far as the China's changed stance on business is concerned, it will very much depend on the future course of China. So time, China is losing the opportunity to come back on the world stage after COVID-19 has been over. So China has the opportunity to come back to the international trade scene, and they are losing this opportunity. With so time, the time is running out actually, and world will find its own alternatives of China. So that is already happening. Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, many of the ASEAN countries, maybe India also. So they are coming out to be the better alternative today in the world. So, for example, for the Indian businessman, this may be an opportunity, that the continued reluctance of China to come back to its business position. So that is not happening. So China is not able to bring back its image as a factory of the world. So that is not happening. So that may be an opportunity. So I just wanted to give you as an example of these events, that how the businessmen from countries like India or Vietnam or Cambodia or other Asian countries, Thailand also. So they can take it as an opportunity, possible opportunity. And as far as the political instability in US is concerned, friends, so political instability in US is still to be looked into, whether the political system in US is robust enough to weather the skewed political forces that are trying to challenge the democratic foundations of US actually. That is what is happening. So some of the recent events, the violent attacks in US, political attacks, so they are indicative of a changing scenario. So it will now depend on that how US tackles these kind of situations. So things seems to be in a positive direction, but it's still it has to be seen. So these were some of the recent recent events that have changed the geopolitical scenario in recent time. If we, friends, as an exporter or as a international trader, we have to understand geopolitics from its very basic understanding. So whatever the other slides, the earlier slides which I discussed with you, where I give you some examples, where I told you about the influencing factors. So basics, if you understand of the geopolitics, you will be able to relate all the events that are happening with the changing scenario, and you can take the future decisions. So what we have to understand in the basics of geopolitical understanding are the geopolitical dimensions. What are these geopolitical dimensions? If you understand these dimensions, then you will start understanding the whole concept of geopolitical changes. The world order, you will understand the world order to world disorder, what we are seeing today, and you will be able to relate these things with the geopolitical events. So these dimensions, friends, are place dimension, time dimension, demography dimension, and multi dimension. So I'll just explain to you with some examples. So if we talk of the place dimension, so in spite of the fact that uh, geographic factors might not be so much influencing. So when we say geography, so there is no need to really invade the neighbors actually. That was maybe a few centuries back that was possible. But even if we take the example of the British Empire was made not out of the invasion or the rule over the neighbors. British Empire was built on the influence on countries far, far off. So geography had already become obsolete by that time. But some influence is there of geography, in the sense that if you do mistakes in geopolitical jargons on geographical influences, the backlash can be dangerous. So the common saying is that love thou neighbors. So that is becoming important. So place dimension to that extent plays an important role, and also the strategic location. So, for example, if we take the example of India, India can convert its location near to the sea highways by having the Samudram plan, which was shelved earlier, by having the by making it possible for the international maritime movement away from Sri Lanka to India. Actually, that is possible. So that has to be taken very seriously. So strategic locations still plays very important role. So place dimension to that extent are very important to understand. Then, friends, time dimension. If we talk of the history, if we talk of the past decisions of the countries, So, for example, if we take the example of past decisions of India in 1991, we we were we adopted LPG, that is the liberalization, privatization, and globalization, and those past decisions are helping India. So India today is a major economic power, at becoming major economic power because of those past decisions. So at the right time, at the we took the right decisions, and that history has been helping India. Otherwise, India would not have been on this position, what it is today. So time remains very important. And then friends, demography. So level of education, the level of economic development, how fast the country is growing, and the nature of politics. So in today's world, in spite of all the debate over democracy, democracy still plays very important role. So countries without democracy still are on the wrong side demographically. So it is very difficult for those countries to really sustain without democracy in today's world. So these things are still playing very important role. And fourth, last but not the least, are the military capabilities that are becoming major deciding factors. So if we take the example of Russia Ukraine war, the military capabilities lost by Ukraine had meant that the war would have been over in few days, as calculated by Russia. But with the help of the West, those conventional military capabilities were poured in Ukraine, and it became easy, comparatively easy, to remain independent. Ukraine remained independent in spite of many losses, many casualties, in spite of everything, because of the conventional military capabilities that were given by the Western countries and European countries to Ukraine. Uh, Ukraine was able to fight it back with the big neighbor, very big neighbor. It could still sustain. So, what is important now in this military capabilities, as far as the protection is concerned, the deterrent is concerned, nuclear capability is very important, and very important is the manufacturing of the military equipments, the self manufacturing. So countries which that are dependent on external inputs will find it very difficult in today's world, because geopolitically, which country is on the which side? Like if we take another example of the Russian dependence on the critical electronics on the Western countries to manufacture Russian military equipments, that is becoming a deciding factor now. So they are not able to get those uh, electronics from any country. So they are unable to manufacture the so-called major capability of Russia are dwindling. So friends, these are some of the basic ideas, basic understanding I wanted to give you about the geopolitical understanding of the world today. And friends, the objective was that as a successful exporter, you will probably be requiring these information and this understanding, so that you can understand this playground, you can understand what is happening in the world, and how these factors are going to decide your strategy, your future strategy for international trade. So friends, in today's session, I really wanted to share with you these concepts, so that you can take right decisions, business decisions about the countries you want to target for your exports, and general understanding of the world, so that you can also communicate with your overseas partners on these matters, because generally when you meet them they discuss these things in great details. So these kind of information will help you. So that was for today. If you have no questions, maybe we can meet in the next session. That session will be day after tomorrow, not tomorrow. So I will create that session for day after tomorrow, and we can discuss further in on the new topic, because geopolitical topic I was able to complete today. So probably there is no need to go for the second session. So I will share with you the topic for the next session. That will be day after tomorrow. So thank you very much, and have a good day and good night. Bye. Thank you very much. Yusufji, thank you. Thanks for joining the session. We'll meet day after tomorrow. Thank you.